Hey, everybody. It's been a little bit of time. As you know, I'm always pressed for time, but today I get to make time for something that is a personal dream of mine. I've been able to meet this awesome person about a year ago at a convention. He is one of my heroes in all of pop culture. So I want to welcome the one and only Ron Fazio, the man behind the Toxic Avenger 2 and 3. Thank you, Ron, for joining me today.
Thank you, Benny. I appreciate being on.
No, it's the pleasure is all mine. And again, this is a long time dream. This is one of those bucket list things that I didn't know if I'd ever get to meet you. So it's talked about a lot, growing up and over the years. Friends are like, yeah, maybe he'll start doing conventions. And sure enough, you ended up being one very close to me. And I made sure to take that time out of that day. And you were awesome in person. And it was, yeah, great to meet you. And this is an awesome time. And what better year when you think about it to talk to you than to celebrate a year of Toxic Avenger, because now people are talking about the Toxic Avenger. So we could talk a little bit about, the current state of the Toxic Avenger, what's coming, but I'm really here to talk about you, get to know you, and definitely ask a little bit about your time on those two movies that were essentially supposed to be one big massive movie, from what I understand. And I know there was a lot of roller coaster of emotions going through that process, but I know you worked with also John Altamora, rest in peace, who was also the same role. You guys kind of traded places with different camera scenes, as far as I understand, correct?
Yep. He was
So,
uh, he was hired as the Toxic Avenger um, early on in the hiring, I guess. And I was added uh, a little bit later as almost like a second string type of Toxic Avenger, where to use like a football term or a sports term, to do like background shots or fill-in shots or things that they might have missed. So that was my role in the beginning, and I was happy to do it. I was on a movie set. This was incredible. I loved it. But yeah, I think I don't remember at this point what happened. I think there was some creative differences, quote unquote. Uh, but John ended up leaving, and I took over. So his parts and to the I mean, we wear the same outfit, but I think you can kind of sometimes you can kind of see he was a little bit more, I guess, wider and broader in the shoulders than I was. I was a little taller, so I think you might be able to see the difference. But we're the same character, so I mean, he was a big guy. I was a big guy. and
right.
and and we played the same character. So they kept his roles in, but I had the luxury of dubbing over his voices in his roles. So the voice you hear in the movie is my voice, as well as the narration of the movie too. So I thought that was kind of fun, and that was nice to kind of put my stamp on the movie. Say, hey, this is me.
And I'll tell you that that's one of the questions that I wanted to help confirm, because you can't find it too much when you look online to try to get clarification on who did the voice, because obviously over the years Toxie has had a couple of different types of voices, but for me, I've talked about it on the show for all my listeners that have heard me talk about and boast about those movies, but your persona of this character, the way you carried the character, the way you spoke, all that stuff is what I envision as the ideal Toxic Avenger, because he had the most personality. Realistically, I think we can be transparent as adults now, looking back at, a movie that I watched as a kid, and realize how over the top and campy it is. And maybe some of that stuff doesn't translate now, obviously, with the way in the world we're in. But I look at the overall aspect of the character, and I know that there's a lot of weird scenarios of, different name of Melvin, the father, like the story kind of went in a different direction. But really, when I look at that character, that's what I see. Any scene that I see, and I was watching the two again recently, and just really, I'm like, yep, this is it. This is peak for me. And I just, I feel disappointed as a fan because I feel like on the low, totem pole of like, why do people not see the greatness in this movie? And I understand the love of the original because I do love the original. And I feel like there would be a perfect marriage if you took a lot of that darker tone of one with your character in it. It would be like the perfect marriage. But
Well, that's yeah. I saw the first movie. We had started filming already, but I hadn't seen the first movie until we had already started filming. So I just
okay,
go to, like, I don't know, Hollywood Video, and rent the videotape at that time. That's what they offered,
right.
and it was crazy. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, but like really weird and like out there. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Okay, so but I saw the origination. When you look at Melvin the Mop Boy, who was the nerdiest of nerds, and he's trying to be cool, but he's not cool. And they what they do to him in part one. Uh, I just kind of took that, like, that would be his personality, even though he's this hulking creature that kills the bad guys and wins the day, as the Toxic Avenger. But he would still maybe have that same sort of naive innocence, of a nerdy type of person that might, never have had a girlfriend, and just might have been studying all his life or whatever, just something like that, that he was just not a very cool person. So I kind of used that to kind of form my depiction of the Toxic Avenger, while he was not when he was not fighting a bad guy. Because when he was fighting a bad guy, he was cool. He was like, "Arr, arr," so
Right.
you heard the growl. I mean, they have that canned growl, but if they needed me to do it, I could do it. But
I love every aspect because again it brings the character a different level of balance with all the
yeah,
different things that he does. And that's a good point. It's not something that I realized that, because again, the one thing I always used to say to myself, it's the traumatons that are making him a little more comfortable in his own skin, funny enough,
mm,
where, he was obviously very nerdish but very awkward. He's more awkward but in a confident way, like he can carry himself a lot better,
yeah,
especially the fact that he's narrating the movie. So that's a huge win for him to begin with. So, but again, there's so much going on emotionally because the story there's a lot to tell, as we know, between the two movies.
right.
And one was really just to the point. It was just a vengeance movie, essentially, like him just getting the better of the bad guys. Didn't have too much dialogue. So that's another part of me looking at, like, you've really expanded the character. And I go on a limb here and say that I feel like your interpretation of him led to maybe the inspiration behind Toxic Crusader. Because again, that character's personality resonates so much with what you did. Obviously, in a more consumer, child friendly way. But again, when I look at that Toxic Avenger resonated with the people, and he, was all about helping. And, there's just so much to that I feel like you get unrecognized for. And those movies don't get recognized for.
Well, I appreciate
I
That's very nice. That's cool. I actually was able to hop on a plane back in, I'm not sure what year it was, and go out to California and audition for the voice of the Toxic Avenger in the Toxic Crusade cartoon. I obviously did.
Okay.
It was a nice opportunity to go out there and audition. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's kind of, I never thought of it that way. And when you bring that up, it's like, oh well, it was an influence to the cartoon. So um, thanks.
No, my pleasure. It's the truth. I mean, I've spoken about these movies to friends and close people for decades now. I'm 43, so I mean, I was really young watching these movies when I wasn't supposed to. And Toxie 2 was my gateway. It was the first movie that I saw, and that's another reason that a lot of people feel like I gravitated towards it, because when you see that first, that's the impact, whether you like it or not. But I watched part two so much as a kid because I had the VHS that my father spent $80 for. Because if you remember back in the day, they were so expensive.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see Temptation of Toxie for probably 7, 8 years after because it was just impossible to get, you know? So then it wasn't until I got older that I realized all the details about the movies kind of being filmed together and, all that traveling and all the different aspects that came into the potential chaos that ensues with a big project like that. But I'd love if you can talk a little bit about all these opportunities that you had with the role, like traveling to Japan, and that was something that movies didn't really do. Like the fact that you went there and actually filmed and you worked, with the communities to actually, connect with them. I thought that that was something that is remarkable in a time like that because everything was always building sets and not always traversing to those locations. So especially for Trauma, knowing those movies are ideally low budget, so that's probably got to be a good bill to pay to be able to do all that. But how was that experience?
Well, I guess I could start by saying we thought we were going to film one movie, like you had said in the beginning, and we thought it was going to be one big long movie. Um, and when I don't know, we caught wind of the fact that oh, this is going to be two movies. There were some people that were maybe not so thrilled with that because hey, I'm only getting paid for one movie, and we're making two movies. So I think it was just a way that um, maybe it was just something they decided during the filming or what. I have no idea, but yeah, it became two movies. So the Trauma team, Lloyd and Michael, they were always very honest, and they always said, "Hey, listen, we want to make a movie. We don't want to pay you a lot of money, but we want you to work for us. And if you don't want to work for us, we'll find something. We'll find somebody else." So they were very honest and upfront about that. So you kind of knew going in,
Right.
and you understood that hey, I'm going to get some pretty valuable experience, whether you were on the crew or in the cast. I think that was it. Now it was kind of wacky and but you sort of learned about how it is on a movie set. Um, I think that's very valuable because as a it was my first project. I had never been an actor before. I had tried out with for football, and I never I didn't really make it on with football, but getting into the acting, I thought it was really cool. But and you learn as you go what it there's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of readjustments. There's a lot of changing the camera angles. There's so much stuff that you don't see, and you kind of get that experience of how you need to film this movie. Even though it was on the crazy side, it was like wacky, and it was enjoyable, and it was a lot of fun. Um, and so I was so thrilled when, I mean, I hate to say this, but when John left, I was thrilled to take over the lead role as the Toxic Avenger. I mean, uh, it was just a dream. I was like, hey, this is I'm the guy. I'm the top guy here. But you didn't treat anybody bad because you were the top guy, or the head, or the name of the movie is the Toxic Avenger. So that was me. I think possibly there could have been a little animosity with going on with how John was handling the role, but I think I took it like, hey, it's Halloween every day. I'm going in there 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting makeup put on me, and it was just so much fun. Um, we had done, I guess, all of the filming, I guess, in New York, up in the Peekskill area, Croton on Hudson, and yeah, they started talking about going to Japan, and they were going to take a small crew, and just me. Um, so I had to pack up all the, I guess, the outfits and everything, and it was like, I wish they would have taken some of the other cast, but hey, you got to do what you got to do, and none of the
I
other.
mean, you got there on your own. I mean, there wasn't a boat for you.
Exactly.
theoretically they fit that into the story too to like justify, you being there
Right.
alone. But
Right.
I get that.
What is it called? Power sailing or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Hudson River here. Um, so yeah, and I went to Japan, and it was like it was just very well done. They Troma was working with a company called Gaga, which was around before Lady Gaga, so it made it famous. But it was called Gaga, Gaga, and that was the name of the company that was, I guess, co-producing or something. There, um, but they were pretty reputable, and they had employed, I guess, what I would think at least three very good stars or actors in Japan. So I can't think of their names right at the top of my head, but it was Big Mac Junko, who was my father or my supposed father. Then there was Sakine, and I remember that was his name. He was like a little interviewer on the street, and he was a very popular guy. And I just can't remember my co-star who actually took, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't really a love interest, but because girlfriend back,
She became the person that was helping you tour around essentially.
like a yeah, she.
She was your guide.
But yeah, so I know that they had some three big names in Japan, and it was just really nice to film in Japan. They were really nice people, always so polite. A lot of them spoke pretty decent English, and we learned as we went along, how to say things in Japanese. And I'll never forget, where's the bathroom? Is Benjo wa doko ka? So that's how you say.
Nice.
So that was important, especially if you drink, you know
Right. Well, you got to stay hydrated, I'm sure, in that suit too.
exactly. So, but just filming there was just so nice. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say. They thought that me being from the United States, they thought um, I was a big star, and really I was not, and I am still not. But sometimes they'd ask the questions. Do you know Arnold Schwarzenegger? Do you know Sylvester Stallone or something? So it was really kind of just funny how you have just conversations. Say no, it's not like that. But I
Right.
appreciate the association. Anyway, just as you had said, they took a small crew and me as the cast to Japan. And I thought we did some pretty good stuff there, and it was really neat seeing Tokyo. All the places that we had filmed. It was just so cool, so cool to be in another culture like that.
Right. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I would say too, somebody that could have been a good fit, but obviously we didn't really get much of him in the first movie. Good old Rick Collins, your arch nemesis,
One of my
which
one of my best friends.
he is a. I loved his role, and I loved the chemistry between the two characters. Like you guys did a really great job, and leading up to that battle.
Right, Junko. Let's party.
At the end, it's epic.
I took a lot of mental notes as to how he would do things, and I mean, he's extremely talented. Even to this day, he's talented. And I always admired what he did with the character of the actual devil. Um, just crazy stuff that came out of his mouth, and the way he said things, and the way it was. I mean, he took over. I think he stole a lot of the scenes because he was just that good. So I really appreciated working with him, and we were roommates a lot of the times too. Um, and we had up there where we were filming up in Peekskill up in New York. We had a lot of guys that were going to have to drive back to New York and then come back the next morning. We just said no, sleep on our floor. We had like 10 guys sleeping on our floor one time. So it was
Yeah, do what you got to do, right?
come and stay with us. You don't have to drive back all the way. But yeah, me and him are still friends to this day. Um, and it's just a pleasure. We kind of think alike. We kind of still hit the gym. I mean, I mean, he's still a bigger guy. He's a lawyer at this point. I mean, he's always been a lawyer since I knew him. Owns his own practice. I mean, great guy to work with. So yeah, I wish I
Yeah,
would have taken him, but
yeah.
go.
And I
And
know you recently did. I was going to say, I'm sorry, that you had a recent reunion with him on a podcast, right? Where you guys actually got to talk a little bit about the movie again as well. That was pretty cool to watch.
it was terrific. Last summer, they called us out because I guess there's oh my gosh, now what is it, trauma something, streaming, trauma streaming,
Yeah,
and they filmed it out in Indianapolis. So they said, yeah, hey, would like you to be, a part of the show. It's kind of like a Johnny Carson style, where interviewer and you're the interviewee, and would like to get a couple of you out of there, out there. So me, I went out, Rick Collins, and Lisa Gay. I think they tried to get Phoebe Legere, but I'm not sure she was too interested in doing it. But all three of us went out, and we just had a great time. It was a really nice. It's a nice little town, Indianapolis. I really enjoyed being there. So we were able to film our parts with. Oh, I guess the show is called Fantastico Disaster Piece, and everybody was just, oh my gosh, so great. I mean, it was a great team of people working with us, and um, just making a show for the streaming service. And it's like, hey, I'll do this every day if I had to.
right. No, that's awesome. And I think that it was well deserved because, again, I don't think the movies and the team like yourself and Rick were a part of get the recognition that it deserves. And it was awesome to watch that and see the passion come from the fans. And,
Yeah.
obviously I know from the convention side, seeing you, seeing other fans come by and give you that love and that praise, it's really, really cool to see because, again,
I
it's a tough franchise
yeah,
because it's gotten so many directions, like between 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's literally three different iterations of the character. It's almost like a multiverse. And I don't like utilizing that terminology because everybody does it, but I feel like, that's where we're at. The character is really not the same throughout the stories.
right. I think
And yeah,
that's a testament of the craziness and genius of Lloyd Kaufman, and the silent partner of Mike Myers. Just Toxic Avenger in Part One. Um, he's the first iteration of Toxic Avenger. I believe in my heart. I don't know this for a fact. Maybe somebody could correct me. I don't think they had the title of the movie as the Toxic Avenger until after they finished filming. Because if you see in the movie, a lot of the people are in the show are I love the monster instead of I love the Toxic Avenger. So
right,
I believe, and I don't know, it's a kind of a guess on my part, but I think Toxic Avenger came by maybe as they were filming or after they got done filming part one, and
right.
it's just it rings in your ear as a great title. Toxic Avenger. It just sounds terrific. So
Agreed.
I'm just happy to be a part of it. I can remember, just as a side story, I was chasing the acting bug, and I was working as a bouncer in New York City, and I heard about this movie being filmed by a girl who did the coat check in the club, and she told me and gave me the address, and I went over and interviewed, and I guess everything fell into place. But there were many people that I met along the way that said, "Oh, don't do that. Don't work with them. They are misogynistic. They don't pay. There's like this ridiculous. You shouldn't work with trauma." I mean, I said, okay, well, I appreciate your input, but I'm gonna have to make my own choice.
Of
And
course, of course.
the rest is history. And I did it, and I'm just like, what are we, like 30, 36 or 35 years?
36 years, yeah.
It's still here. It's still a thing. And now with this next reiteration of it, it might get some more publicity. So I'm so happy I did it. So I didn't
Yeah.
make money,
No,
but
I get that. Yeah.
very happy to be known as the Toxic Avenger in part two and part three.
Yeah, again, it's a really awesome fact that, again, you also, I feel, theoretically you've played the role more than anybody else, because we can count the two movies, because theoretically, and it's the film time. Because obviously, I think, my thought is, when they decided to make it two movies, probably because they're looking at, like, holy crap, look at how much footage we have.
Yep.
Like, nobody's gonna sit through a 3.5 hour, 4 hour Tromo movie. you
Right.
know and not even just a Tromo movie. Like, there weren't many movies that were being extended like that. It was very rare in the 80s. So it makes sense. But then again, could be a cash grab. It's an opportunity to stretch it out, and there's always logistics behind it that we won't know all the details. But I try to understand both sides, and I think we talked a little bit offline about just when Citizen Toxie came out, how when the DVD was released, there was just a little bit of commentary from Lloyd, and kind of nonchalantly skipping ahead, saying that 2 and 3 are not like real sequels, and this is a sequel to the first movie. Which, Lloyd, I love you, we've met, I love you, but like, I have to respectfully disagree in the fact that 4 is not even really a sequel, because again, it's not, that's not Toxie from 1 either. But again, this is what the fans are. We're passionate about the IP, the character, and having iterations of it be different forms is okay.
Right.
Citizen Toxie is not for me. It was hard to watch then. It's hard to watch now for a lot of reasons. Um, but the idea of, now we're fast forwarding to 2025. We have known that there was a reboot that was coming from a bigger studio, that Lloyd are producing it. We're going in a different direction. I don't know if the character is based off Melvin at all, as far as name, things like that. But the research I've done, and there's definitely a little bit of a different story.
Mm,
But from the trailers that I've seen, they're looking to capture the grittiness of the original couple of movies, from what I can see. So I think that's what makes sense now. I think that that is kind of what the world needs, is that kind of envision of, hey, this is an IP that exists. It's cool. It's okay to like this type of stuff. And I feel like over the last 15 years, it's been more accepted to like B movies. And I'm a guy that watches a lot of that stuff. And I'll give you one that might be a blast from your past. I don't know if you watched it, in the 80s, but to go into the old B movie style, this is another 80s.
yeah.
In visual, it's trauma. It's all toxic, weird body horror with like pastel blood and crazy colors. And
Mm,
that's what the 80s was all about. And there
yeah.
is definitely a resurgence in that. So I think it's cool that this new movie has gotten distribution, because that's been another, I don't know how much you follow, but yeah, that's a big thing. But what I'm thinking and I'm hoping is that people are going to watch the movie, and they're going to do what most people do when they like something. They're going to do more research. They're going to start discovering all the stuff that comes with that IP, and they're going to find you, and they're going to find your movies, and
Nice.
those movies are going to get the love that they deserve.
Yeah.
That's my hope and my dream for you.
I hope
So,
so too. I'm right there with you.
and
um,
we need toys. Like, I'm a toy collector, if you can't tell, and they've released everything. They've done Toxic Crusader. They've tried, and I'm going to say they've tried to do a Toxic Avenger, but it's really a repaint of that character. This
oh,
is the
sure.
closest we've gotten to a Toxie, and I have been fighting. And I'm telling you now, I fight the good fight and talk to any toy company I can, and I wink to them and tell them, you need to make a Toxic Avenger 2 something.
Yeah.
Figure, pop. Toxic Avenger 2 needs the love. People will buy it.
I
People
was
will
very
buy it.
happy. I was very happy that Funko Pops uh, came out, and they have a Toxic Avenger. So I kind of picked up a few of them. So at the conventions, I kind of got
Right.
a bit, but not so much. I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that though.
No, it's okay, but I also, that's not you. Like, let's be, like, that's me being a little petty there, but that's me protecting my Toxie. The time that they took to film the movie, there's so much of it. Why wouldn't you want to appreciate that. But again, I know there's logistics behind all that stuff, but I do think that the this new movie is going to have a resurgence,
Yeah,
because
that's
people come to me now, they say, "Oh, that's the thing that you've liked all these years." I'm like, "Yeah, and now you're going to probably like it."
yeah,
So that's awesome.
and that's exactly my thought too. Is and people ask, "What do you think? What do you think?" Um, well, number one, when did they film? I think it was in 2022, right? They
Yeah,
filmed
it's been done for a while, and it
it for
it
a while.
actually yeah, it actually screened
So
at a festival,
in
and it
Texas,
got like reviewed, yeah, and but then it just went
and
quiet.
right, and nobody wanted to distribute it, but I guess they found somebody to distribute it. So I heard August 29th or something around that time of this year, 2025, is when this new Toxic Avenger is going to come out. And yeah, my hope and prayer is that it brings more publicity to the old ones that we did. And therefore, because I do still do the conventions, and um, uh, so hopefully some of the conventions will say, hey, we can't get Peter Dinklage, let's get Ron Fazio. So, something like that, that it might
Right.
be more publicity to the old Toxic Avengers that we did. And it would be a successful outing at a convention like that. So that's my hope and prayer for that as it comes out in August. So I can't really give out the details yet, but I am going to be. I'm already. I think I'm booked for about 4 conventions in the fall, which is usually the time when they start to happen around Halloween and all that stuff. So
Right.
I do have some things on the horizon with the conventions, but I can't really give out any of the information at this point.
Understood.
I
Well,
don't have.
I'm hoping you end up back in New Jersey so I can come visit and show my support again.
Yeah,
We have Monster Mania, we have Chiller Theater. My if you can see a little tiny thumb here, that's my 8-year-old that's also a big horror fan, and
good.
he loves Toxie too. So that's really awesome. I'm asking him to be on his best behavior because he knows how important this is for me.
His name,
This is Xander.
hi Xander from.
Ron said hi. He heard you. He said hi.
All right.
Awesome. But yeah, the one really big question I have that I don't know if you've ever been asked, but we get to a point where that hype is there. You're getting the love that you've been waiting for, and would you ever don the suit again?
Never
If
say
the
never say never, but I don't know what would take to actually do that. Maybe some negotiations, you know.
Of course, of
Uh,
course.
exactly. So I would have to be talking to Lloyd himself and figure that out. I'm 62, almost 63 years old at this point. I've had a hip replaced. I've had a knee scope. Um, so from my days playing football, so I don't know if I could really do a lot with it, but at the same time, I would never say never. Um, and it would have to be a replica of the one that I use because I know there's a lot of variation. Like part 4 and part 1 did not look like part 2 and part 3. So,
And that's the gripe that I hold eternally.
mm,
It's funny, I don't know if you know, but at one point, Lloyd's team had somebody make a latex mask, like I would say maybe 10, 12 years ago. And friend of mine that's an artist, we used to do conventions together. We used to talk to Lloyd all the time. They had a mask. He bought it on the spot. It was the closest
yeah,
to your style. And
good.
it was like never made again. Because if you look at all the promotions that are done now, all the masks that you use, they almost never. I think they might have like one, but anytime like Lloyd's out and he has people dress up, they're either decked out in green for Crusader, which makes sense because they're promoting the game that's coming and things like that. But even the traditional brown style mask, it's never the same. It's more closer to Citizen Toxie, and I'm just like, that's you're missing out, like that's a peak.
The guy in Texas. I think his name is Evan Para, and he's on Etsy. Saw it. I bought one from him.
Okay.
He's a great artist, and I just bought. It's a bust. It's not a mask or anything. It just sits.
Okay.
And I just think he did a great job with it. I don't have it right now available. I should have probably brought it, but Evan Para on Etsy. I think it's Parra. So giving him a little, plug. I think if anybody wants a Toxic Avenger mask, I think he could probably make it for you. As
That'd be
far
awesome.
as I think, but
Right.
yeah, I noticed that there's the greens. They're coming out with the like Crusader Toxic Avenger. It still kind of looks cute, but it's almost like a mesh between my mask and then the
Yeah,
Crusaders.
that's exactly what I when I see the green one. I think the mold is almost identical, which is your mask, and it's just crazy. Like I'm like I can't be the only. I can't be the minority. I just feel like maybe people aren't speaking up, and I think that again, this resurgence will have just more dialogue on the internet and people talking.
Yeah,
I do try to think about the realistic aspects of the world that we're in, and you think about 80s movies and how some stuff, people may find inappropriate. And there was a lot of that in that movie. Let's just be honest. But, in hindsight, I think that could be also why people maybe not gravitating towards it, because it's a little overly campy at certain points, when it comes to just the overall movie itself. Um, but again, when you're looking at comparing, the three or the four in this case, there's just a lot of distinct differences that I feel you are the shining difference between you and having Rick in those movies as well, because clearly he's not in the other ones. I mean, I love Cigar Face and I love some of the villains in the other one. The mayor I could have did without, but it fit the movie. That's okay. Um, then you think about some of those scenes in the first one with the kid, being run over. Like, we can't do that nowadays.
it was
So
pretty
it's,
rough. Yeah, some of those were pretty rough.
but I was thinking about what you said before about like, the distribution. We didn't have it, and now we have it. I think I feel what happened was we got people paying attention to Terrifier. If you're familiar,
Oh yeah,
once Terrifier started making money, that was it.
yeah. That's a
So
scary movie. That's a real scary movie. I
that's
didn't.
out there. What about Toxie versus good old Art the Clown?
Yeah, love that.
That'd be
We
awesome.
always used to talk about that way back in the 80s. We'd be like, what about Freddy versus Toxie or Michael Myers versus Toxie? I mean, the potential was there. I just, you wish
Yeah,
now that it's already, I mean, they sort of ran through it like they did Freddy versus Jason. And
right.
I mean, Batman versus Superman or something like that. I mean,
There's a
it
lot of crossovers.
would probably
Yeah,
work, but it was only just talk, and unfortunately, Trauma is non-union, and they probably aren't. They're probably like, I don't know, in the they're not in the Screen Actors Guild in the Hollywood, mainstream. So, it'd be like for Jason or Freddy to be with Toxic Avenger, like really, I almost like
yeah.
they would look down on.
Blasphemous.
Yeah, it's like a class difference, right? Because Freddy and Jason are like mainstream horror movies, and Toxie was like a non-union cult classic, and oh boy, so yeah, there probably was some politics involved with that, but I know that Lloyd and Michael Hers used to always say that they don't like us too much in Hollywood, so and the MPAA rating system. I mean, it was going to give Toxic Avenger Part Two when it first came out. It was going to give it an X rating, so they had to cut
Yeah,
down a lot of the scenes to make it less gory, and it was going to be X rated because of blood and guts. And when you're
right.
there and you can see the dye and the whatever, I think it was like corn syrup.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of it.
Yeah, exactly, lots of it. But on film and they look at it and it's bloody, oh, we're going to give this an X rating. So they have to cut it down even more. So it was unfortunate because it's almost as if, hey, this is a non-union, low budget movie, and we're going to be harder on this movie than we are on, I don't know, some other movies like, the Jason or the Freddy movies. So that's what you got to deal with that stuff, and
Yeah, I
that's
get that.
trauma. So
Well, I mean, it's one thing that I'll give Lloyd and the team. It's consistency. They've been doing it since I was in diapers, and he's been true to everything he's done, and again, that's what makes them who they are. And again, he has created an icon, one way or another. And I think that there's been so many other movies. He's made so many movies, but most of they don't stick out the same way. When I think of like heroes that he's maybe made, I think Sergeant Kabuki Man. But when was the last time we had anything with that? So it really speaks to the character, and I think him going with the Toxic Crusader definitely helped create that longevity because he just he opened up that gateway for the toys and all the marketing and stuff like that, which is, you can't do that too much with the trauma stuff because you're selling to adults in most cases,
yeah,
but now you have that resurgence because now you have people like me that are buying toys at 43 years old for stuff that I grew up with because maybe I missed out as a kid.
yeah.
So, you know, but
think
I
I still
had
I
get
think Toxic Crusader action figure, Toxic Avenger, still wrapped in the original wrapping. So maybe someday it'll be worth something, but who knows?
Well, I think the original ones have a little more of that value because they've come out like another company has made. Like this is supposed to be kind of a 1-to-1 as far as the scale of the figure of that original,
Yeah,
but it's clearly a brand new box and stuff. But then you have like that Super Seven company. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're the ones that have gone the route of trying to go the movie route, and actually get you a movie one. But again, it's really just a repaint of the Toxic Crusader. So nobody is taking that time because when I look at it, you don't have the gauntlets. That's the big thing for me. It's like those arm gauntlets. They're part of that costume. They make a big part of it, and the fact that the suit is there's a lot more of the goo that's on the top area and stuff.
yeah.
What I'll send you once when we're offline, I'll send you a video of my friend dressed up. I think you'll approve because he went the route of Toxie too. I said, you can't do it and do anything else. It's not possible. And he had put like dye in his teeth to make his teeth look a little gritty and stuff too. It was really cool.
Well, that was the one thing. The teeth were the one thing that they didn't put any makeup on. So
I know they were super clean.
right, so super white, because against the brown, mask, it looked like, my gosh, I got some white teeth there. So I can remember
It's irony when you think about it. He was completely destroyed with toxic waste except for his teeth. I feel
exactly.
like his teeth were actually improved when you think about it because I think Melvin's teeth were a little not so great, when you think back.
That's right.
Oh,
Maybe they.
that's awesome.
But it was like I just just as a thing. I mean, I still keep in touch with, like I said, Rick Collins, one of my best friends, Lisa Gay through social media, and I saw her a couple of years last year. Michael Jai White, again,
Awesome.
yeah, awesome star. I mean, he became a star out in Hollywood. The dude is good looking. He's built like a brick house. I mean, cut, muscular, and he's like a 10th, 11th, 12th degree martial artist. I mean, he knew he had something, and it's his repertoire of movies kind of shows it. I mean, he's a talented guy. I think he's got over 60 movies that he's been in, possibly even starred in. Like Spawn was a
Right.
beginning, but he's worked with Tyler Perry and done some of that stuff that you're like, wow, he's the guy who on the set of the Toxic Avenger was just a nice guy, and he went.
And runs away and does his little dance.
Lucky for you, it's time for my piano lesson.
It's the best.
Time time for my piano lesson. But yeah,
So good.
so he was great. I mean, but the dude, he could move. He could. Oh my gosh, such a talented guy. So he definitely deserves it. And who else? My old roommate, Benny Nieves. He played one of the bad guys, and I still keep in touch with him. Paul Borghese, who has his own, I think, film company up in Putnam County, New York. Does a lot of things with the Italian mafia type of look. Um, and it's funny, we were just talking that, Paul, Rick, myself, we were all extras in this TV show that came out on HBO all those years ago called The Sopranos.
Look at
And
that.
we didn't know what it was, but it became the biggest hit as a TV show. Actually, I think it was the start of the streaming TV shows that were on a cable station that you were only associated with movies, and we had no idea what it was.
Yep.
And but I think Rick and I were extras on different episodes, but I think Paul actually had a little bit more of a part. Like I think he had a line or so on one certain situation on one episode. But so we all had experience working in The Sopranos, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was great. I mean, even if we were just an extra on these types of sets, you're like, this is
Right.
that is gonna be there for years. So um,
Especially look now, obviously, how much more it's even expanded over the years and
oh,
grown.
the fans, yeah. I have a friend, Tony Cucci, who was in, I think his character in The Sopranos was Fat Dom. Uh, it was one of the later um, what do you call it? One of the later seasons, not in the beginning. He was one of the later seasons, but yeah, he had a major part, and of course he was heavy at the time, and beating up dudes, and then they kill him, so they killed him off too. But he was like he was a great guy too. I mean, in other words, I keep in touch and have a lot of friends that are still in the acting business, and here I am down in Durham. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm still trying. I do work full time. I'm a PA. I'm a physician assistant. Um, so I work full time, but I still keep an eye on if there's any auditions that might be happening on a day off that I could send in, um, and figure out if we can do it. And I've gotten a few things, but nothing really huge. But I'm in a
Right.
local commercial down here for a metal roofing company, and so I'm trying to make it still work. But after a few years, I might think about retiring from my job and maybe get into acting again full time. So
That'd
I'll
be awesome. I'd love to see you on the screen again. It'd be awesome. I think you do a great job. And, hey, maybe you can go back and revisit one of your thug characters that you also played that we haven't talked about in Toxie 2.
that
Because there, those scenes where you are not in the suit, right?
exactly. And again, I just said, hey, I'm always in the suit. What can I play a bad guy? Could I do? Lloyd was like, oh, sure, sure, yeah. But so I had the old my black hair and the
The paint on the face, so good.
yeah, and Toxie is beating the crap out of me, I guess. So it's kind of neat how it was John in the suit at the time, and I'm the bad guy, and so he, beating the crap out of me and punching me silly. So it was almost like me as Toxic Avenger beating up me as the bad guy. So I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, they just did me a favor and sort of allowed me to show my face on the screen. So I thought it was pretty cool, and I really appreciated that.
That's awesome. I mean, you're a man of many talents, so you went from being the extreme hero that we need to one of those thugs that just needed to get the paved way out of there.
Yeah.
No, but listen, this was really awesome. I'm still like on cloud nine. Forgive me because I know that I had my moment when we met in person, and I'm like I'm gonna behave this time. But this has
But
been like a really awesome.
you're very professional. This,
I appreciate that. Thank you. No, this is. I probably could keep you here all day because I mean I have so many questions when it comes to just the movies and stuff like that. But realistically, I wanted to make sure that I shared the importance of how this movie has been such a critical part of my life in the world of pop culture. And I always tell people about like my top five movies, and it is in my top five movies of all time because it was at a point in my life where I was young, but without going too deep into it, it was just a transition of like went to Catholic school for 5 years, and then
Ooh,
I was just kind of yanked out and put into public school for a year, and my kind of world was twisted upside down, and I became rebellious and just trying to fit in. And you know movies and video games were like what I gravitated to. And my dad kind of just let me watch whatever I wanted because I grew up in a comic book store. My dad had a comic book shop, so I was around heavy metal and Marvel and DC and all the weird stuff that I'm not supposed to be into. My mom would take me to see Child's Play 2. I'd go see Total Recall, and I'm not supposed to be seeing this. And then somehow, I don't even remember how this movie came to me, but I saw it on TV once on cable, and I begged my dad to buy it. And that movie was burnt to the ground from watching it so much. Like I can watch it, I can sing all the parts, like in the music, like I know those melodies, and it was such a healing movie for me in a weird way because it was so it's that's not the job it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to, it's a complete opposite of that, but it was a healing movie for me, and it made me feel like I was in a safe place and that I could enjoy something that wasn't what everybody else was into, because I watched it, nobody knew what it was, especially at my age. But years later, I have friends that anytime they see anything post about Toxie, they're like, "You've been there since the beginning." I'm like, as early as I could be, but
I
you
appreciate
know,
I appreciate that, and that makes me feel good. And maybe there are more like you, and that really look at the Toxic Avenger and say, "Hey, that is a great movie. That is what I would think a good superhero should be, or because it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous." But I appreciate you saying that. Makes me feel good. So thanks.
no, my pleasure.
Mm.
I'll leave you with one last question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have a favorite line that you used in either two or three? Whether it be a little kind
Oh,
of Duke Nukem style quirk because you had a lot of those, or
yeah. Hold on a second. I've okay. Almost like a little bit of a science line. I said something like, because I think I was being frustrated and complaining to my girlfriend Claire, and I said something like, "I don't have a life. I have a half life." And that was it. I think that was it. I thought that was funny and good and science based.
yeah. I mean, the character went through a lot. There was a lot of manipulation, if you will, and that I think that also showed to a little bit of his adolescence, like you said earlier, just being a nerd and being younger and not being aware, being fooled to go there and to be fooled to joining Apocalypse. But like you gave him a good dynamic of obviously being the bad guy for a little bit, which is hard to watch. you know,
I know
um,
it was fun, but it was like, oh yeah, Toxie went to the other side for a little bit.
you know what that reminded me of, and I don't. I'm hoping you'll know, but Drunk Superman from the Superman movies when pretty much Christopher Reeves goes pretty much he's in the diner and he's drinking and his suit is darker and it's just like the kid is just baffled that his hero is just down in the dumps and like that's not who you are and come back to us type of thing. And yeah, that's awesome.
Very true. Good analogy there.
Appreciate that. Well, Ron, I will let you go. I really,
Oh,
really thank you a million times over. Truly, you have made my day. You've made my weekend. So thank you for this opportunity again.
well, I hope a lot of people are watching for you here. So okay, but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's still I'm so amazed that after all these 30 something years, it's still there. We're going to have a new Toxic Avenger out at the end of this year, and there could be a renewed interest that it might be, more in the theaters. Who knows?
Right.
So I'm really happy, and happy I did it. I'm happy to be a part of it, and happy to do this show with you too. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again.
All right.
Appreciate the kind words. Hope you have a great night. Appreciate your time.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.